I'm interested to hear what you guys think about the Bills' season, basically on the whole. Was it a success? Was it a failure? Does it fall somewhere in the middle? What did you think about them maybe at the beginning of the season that you were totally wrong about? Or what were you totally right about that you thought about them from the beginning of the season? Because I look at it and I think the season overall was kind of a win, right? I mean, they got the proverbial monkey off their back that was the 17-year playoff drought, and I think now they can just sort of operate without that black cloud lingering over them. Like, they can operate like a real team and just sort of move forward without having to think. And I don't know that Bean and McDermott were even really thinking about it to begin with, but they knew about it, but I don't know if it was like their number one thing. Like, Whaley sort of made the drought like their number one thing. Like, we got to end this. So he threw a bunch of money at free agents and stuff and traded up for Sammy Watkins. I don't think Bean and McDermott ran the team that way. But now I'm excited for them that they can just sort of operate without even really having to answer questions about it and things like that. Because I look back at this season, like I said, like a win. You came in with the expectations of being maybe like a 6 or 7 win team, and you trade Sammy Watkins and Ron Darby, and people are like, well, you're tanking, maybe you're a 5-win team or 6-win team, whatever. And you get to 9-7. You start off 5-2, you get that big win against Atlanta on the road, obviously. You win in Arrowhead later in the season after a 3-game losing streak that included the Peterman thing, which to me is, nail in the coffin on that. That's dead and buried. You made the playoffs, so that shouldn't really matter at this point. Like, you can move, like I, basically alluded to just a minute ago, you can just move forward now. You don't have to think about, like, should we stick with Tyrod because, he's getting us close to the playoffs. Like, and like, again, I don't know that this regime is, necessarily operating that way, but it just feels so good to have that pressure off of you. I wish I could live in last week just forever. By now you obviously know the Bills lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars in the wild card round of the playoffs, 10-3. I was there, and I guess I'll share some of my experiences with you. It was cool. Honestly, it was cool. The game was pretty boring. I went on 2 road trips this year, Carolina and Jacksonville. And if you're keeping track at home, the finals in those games were 9-3 and 10-3. I did not see a Bills touchdown on my 2 road trips this year, which is sad. And I got an interesting stat on that as well, which I will get to in a bit. I want to tell you guys about Jacksonville. There were Bills fans everywhere. Anyone who was there would tell you about Lot X. People were throwing up the X's on Saturday night. Lot X, see you there tomorrow. And we're like, okay, whatever. I didn't get up too early. I got up around, I think, 8. And, by 8:30 or ish, I'm hearing that, like, the lot opened at, like, 7. And it's not supposed to open till 9, maybe. Because there were so many cars lined up trying to get into the lot that they were blocking traffic on streets. And there was nobody to direct traffic there yet. But there were so many cars and they couldn't turn them all around. So they just opened the lot. And there you go. That's Bills fans for you. It was way more intense in Lot X than anything I've seen at a Bills game. It was like people were just bringing, like, the table thing. People were bringing tables in, jumping through them. Almost like an assembly line of people jumping through tables. That's honestly how that went. People were jumping off of Winnebagos through tables. Swear to God. It was nuts. It was nuts. It's not necessarily something I'm super proud of, but I can't lie to you and tell you it wasn't funny to watch. Like, you're just standing there and just like, oh my God, I didn't jump through a table. Not my thing. I'm not going to jump through a table. Again, not my thing. I'll leave it up to WWE and other Bills fans. Anyway, the game, again, like I said, was pretty boring, 10-3. I'm sure it was boring to watch, too. Jim Nantz and Tracy Wolfson and Tony Romo just getting another barn burner of a Bills game. Looked up a couple of stats there. The Bills are 0-4 with them this year, and they have not scored an offensive touchdown in the last 3 games. And the first game they were down 34-7 to the Jets. So the only touchdown that mattered was Zay Jones' touchdown. Or the only offensive touchdown that mattered was Zay Jones' touchdown to make it 7-7. Because then they lost to the Patriots at home 23-3. They lost to the Patriots on the road 37-16. Jordan Poyer scored the only touchdown in that one, and now they lose to Jacksonville 10-3. So that, I'm not putting that on Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, but that's the top commentating team for CBS, just getting 4 total clunkers from the Bills. So that kind of sucks, because it's the only game on. That's what that didn't really hit me in the stadium. I'm like, this is the only game on right now. This is playoff football that I'm watching, and no touchdowns. You can talk about the run pass option on 1st and goal to 2. I'm kind of indifferent to it. It doesn't really matter to me. Tyrod tried it. I think Shady's running into a brick wall. I think if you have Tolbert on the team, this is a pretty good spot to use him. If whatever, say what you want about Tolbert. I know a lot of fans rode him pretty hard this year, but if you're going to use him in any situation, short yardage seems like the situation. I don't hate throwing that up to Kelvin Benjamin because that's what he's there for. The offensive pass interference. You don't really expect that call, but he did kind of extend the arms. I think it made it pretty easy for the official. And then they only come up with a field goal on the drive. So, and you only go up 3-0, and then you let Blake Bortles just run rampant over you for 89 yards on 8 carries. You kind of the game felt. I'm gonna say it felt over, at least to me. Even though Tyrod got a bunch of chances, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. It felt over to me on the 2nd and 15 when he fumbled the snap and just ran to the left for 17 yards. I'm like, yeah, I think this is it. I think that seals it for me. It's not our day. But if you score that touchdown, you go up 7-0 in the first place. Does it make it a different game? The butterfly effect and all that, whatnot? I don't know, maybe. I wasn't thrilled with the drive after that because they gave it to the Jags. The Jags pinned them deep, and the Bills had 1 minute and 2 seconds or something, maybe a little bit more, maybe 1:12, and Jags had all their timeouts. And the Bills were really probably just trying to get a first down because they were backed up, I believe, inside their own 10. And then the second down, they throw it, and Deontay Thompson drops it so they don't have to use a timeout. And then third down, they throw it, and Zay Jones doesn't quite get the extension, goes out of bounds so they don't have to use the timeout. You knew it was going to be 3-3 at halftime. You kind of just knew it. And that made a difference in the game. Don't tell me it didn't. You might go into halftime up 3-0 if Deontay Thompson catches that pass. And Jacksonville comes out, has one good drive the whole time. Literally one good drive. Bortles ran up and down, but, whatever. He had one good drive the entire time, and it ends up on 4th and goal at the 1. Doug Marrone takes a gamble, shocker of the year, and throws a touchdown, which I guess a lot of people are likening to the Kelvin Benjamin touchdown against the Patriots, because apparently there was some sort of bobble. I couldn't really tell. I haven't seen a good look at the replay. Maybe you guys can talk about that for me. But then, all in all, whatever. The defense lost 10 points. Score more than 10 points. Who's not taking 10 points from Jacksonville in a playoff game? Jacksonville at home is going to score 10 points against you. You going to take that? Absolutely. Just go beat that. Loved Shady grinding it out with a bad ankle, getting, what did he have, 119 total yards or something like that, and 25 touchdowns. Keep that guy around. The one guy that is clearly in trouble moving forward next year, I would say, is Tyrod Taylor. I think a lot of fans might be done with him. I think the coaching staff might be done with him. I think they'll look to trade him, and if they can't trade him, they will release him by the 3rd day of the league year, which is March 16th. And I think I feel bad for him because I like him. I feel bad that might have been his last play in a Bills uniform, was getting slammed to the ground and then some guy jumping on his head. I think that could have been a penalty, but it wasn't. He did get one of those earlier in the game. Doesn't mean he should be exempt from this one, but whatever. I feel bad for him from that standpoint, but even if you listen to the press conference, the end of the year press conference from Bean and McDermott, Brandon Beane is basically like, yeah, we need to get better on offense. They didn't shy away from that, and that starts with, there's going to be some talk about Dennison too, because they didn't give Dennison a vote of confidence either. They basically said, well, we have to evaluate everyone, and Dennison was really the only one that got asked about specifically, because I would expect the evaluate everyone from a players and coaches standpoint. I would expect that answer, but it wasn't exactly a vote of confidence for Dennison. I think he might be gone depending on what they want to do at quarterback. Like I said, I don't think they're going to keep Tyrod. Here's the stat. Tyrod Taylor, in 15 starts this year, 15 out of 17 games, 15 starts, the Bills did not score an offensive touchdown in 5. That's a third of the games. 1/3 of the games that Tyrod Taylor started, the Bills didn't score an offensive touchdown. And in 4 of the last 7. 4 of the last 7 starts with Tyrod Taylor while he was in the game, because they ended up scoring a touchdown against New Orleans with Peterman. While Tyrod Taylor was in the game, 4 of his last 7 starts, the Bills didn't score an offensive touchdown. I mean, the proof is there. There's your proof. The proof is in the proverbial pudding. That I think that might seal it for Tyrod. And the Bills have the ammo in the draft to replace him. They have the 21st and 22nd overall pick, thanks to Kansas City losing, blowing their lead. Kansas City is an interesting thing because the Bills have been past trade partners with them, with the Tre'Davious White and Patrick Mahomes draft day trade, and the Ragland trade. So, and there's Brett Veach's there. So who was in Philly with McDermott. So there's some familiarity there. And obviously Alex Smith, has a $20 million plus cap hit, and only like $3.6 million if they release him. So it looks like he's going to get released. And Alex Smith is an intriguing name to me. Alex Smith, if you go for Alex Smith, maybe you keep Rick Dennison around, because that seems like the type of player that Rick Dennison would like for his offense. Seems kind of comparable to Tyrod Taylor, but can maybe trust his eye a little bit more and make certain throws and take a little bit more risks, or just has a better overall field vision. That's interesting to me. I think Kirk Cousins is going to get talked about, but I don't know that the Bills will spend the money. Being said today, or said in the end of the season press conference, which was today, but I know that you're not all going to watch this today, that they want to be responsible spenders in free agency, and that they're not off, they're willing to spend the money, but they're not, going to chase guys, I believe is the phrase he used. They're not going to chase. And Cousins you might have to chase, and I don't know if anyone would love that anyway, but it's just different. I hope, I'm so glad that the national people got to see Tyrod Taylor on a national scale in the playoffs, because I think, first of all, it played out perfectly for the Bills, because they make the playoffs, they get there with Tyrod Taylor, who they maybe didn't want to keep in the first place, and he basically lays a huge egg. 37 pass attempts for 134 yards. Terrible. The pick wasn't his fault, but it's bad. That's just bad by any measure or metric. So now the Bills maybe get a free pass to they should probably move on from Tyrod Taylor. So that might be the perfect storm there for them. But the fact that people are well, the Bills should just be happy with what they have. Tyrod Taylor, he doesn't throw interceptions. So what? We punt so much. If Kirk Cousins, just for example, I don't know, whoever, Alex Smith, Alex Smith doesn't turn over that much, but if Kirk Cousins throws 2 picks and we only punt 3 times, what's really the difference if Tyrod Taylor throws no picks, but we punt 7 times? Punts are kind of like turnovers, right? I feel like a lot of fans are seeing it that way. So I'm interested. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know what you're thinking about who they might want to retain. I know they have 18 unrestricted free agents. I'd like to keep E.J. Gaines, maybe Leonard Johnson. There's a couple others in there. What do you want to do at quarterback? The draft? Do they trade up? Dave Gettleman, who was Brandon Beane's mentor in Carolina, is now the GM of the Giants, and they would have a 2nd or 3rd overall pick. Do they maybe move up for that, for a Darnold or something? I don't know. Did they move on from Dennison for rookie quarterback, new coordinator? That would make sense to me. What are you guys thinking? Where's your mind at? Season's over. They're not playing any more games, but you excited for 2018? Because I sure am. hit me up on Twitter. My Twitter handle is the same as my YouTube username. It's the end of the season, but as always, go Bills.